back on the record, if we could, let's go ahead and go through this notice, and let's make sure we know what areas of inquiry you're here to testify about. And let's go back to number 1 again, so I'm clear on this. Number 1 is the process by which life insurance applications are prepared and/or submitted and/or evaluated and/or approved by proposed insureds and/or you. And you, in the instructions, in the definitions of the notice, means Midwest National Life Insurance Company of Tennessee. And just so I'm clear on this, are you here on behalf of Midwest National Life Insurance Company of Tennessee?
I am.
Okay, to testify as to that paragraph.
I can give a general idea of how an application is underwritten. I didn't work in that office at that time.
Okay. And your testimony before is that office is closed, but that, I guess, Midwest National Life Insurance Company is not out of business. They're not closed.
Correct.
Okay.
We no longer sell life policies.
Okay. When did y'all stop selling life
I
policies?
believe it was 2008.
Okay. Do you know what the reason was for that?
I do not know.
And so now, are you still in underwriting?
Yes.
Okay. What type policies do you?
We sell health in 4 states, and we sell supplemental products.
Okay. Was life a big portion of y'all's business before 2008?
In the Texas office or in the Oklahoma office?
In any office.
I don't know what Oklahoma City sold in the Texas office. It was not.
Okay. And then, I guess the second area, the plaintiff's application for life insurance on the life of Antonio Jermaine Nichols, and whether your procedure in this regard was properly followed. Can you testify to that area?
Generally, yes.
Okay. The next, number 3, and I guess let's do this rather than me go through and read them, because they obviously speak for themselves. Let's go through and you tell me which numbers you're here to testify about, and we'll go from there.
I can speak as a general process for number 3 also. And generally again on number 7. Generally on number 9. There are probably parts of the other questions, but specifically I wouldn't know. But I think some of that will be covered in these other.
Okay. Let me ask you about this. The policies and procedures and training employees and or agents. As a manager, I mean, are you not involved in the training of employees or agents of the company?
Are we speaking currently or at that time?
Well, let's do both. You know, at the time you were a manager, did you never train anyone?
We had a training department in the Texas office, and we sat one-on-one with trainees to work with them.
Okay. And but my question to you is did you ever train anyone in the Texas office?
Not on a day-to-day basis, but I sat with them and provided comments and guidance.
Okay. But is that a yes or is that a no?
Well, it's a general yes, but training was not what I did the majority of my day.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you, did you ever train anyone? And it's either yes or no.
Yes, generally by guidance, yes, or reviewing their questions and answering them. Yes, I would say that would be training.
Okay. And I mean, that makes sense. You're a manager. I would expect a manager to manage and to train the people that are under them. Will you agree with that?
In a general basis, I trained them. I did not have class every morning. As they would ask me questions, anything that they felt that they couldn't answer or they felt needed someone above them's expertise they would send to me. And if you consider my answer to them as a form of training, I agree that, yes, I did train.
Okay. Were you ever trained?
I sat one-on-one with an underwriter. I already knew underwriting when I moved to the company.
Okay. Well, tell me about that, your experience in underwriting before Midwest National.
I worked for American Service Life in Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay. How long did you work for them?
2.5 years.
And then before that,
Before that, I taught school
where did you teach school?
in Fort Worth at a private school.
Okay. High school or
No,
elementary?
it was speech pathology.
Okay. And is that your, I guess, education background?
Yes,
Okay. Where did you go to college?
James Madison University.
Okay. The next one, 15, the procedures and policies in supervising employees and or agents. Did you ever supervise any employees or agents?
I supervised employees.
Okay. And I guess, can you testify in that area of inquiry on behalf of the company?
Yes, but I don't know about the Oklahoma City procedures or policies.
Okay. Is there any reason why they would be any different?
I don't know.
Okay. I mean, I guess, do you have to watch the employees more closely in Oklahoma or in Texas?
I only know, what I did, and that was in Texas.
Okay. The next one, the procedures or policies in performing or effectuating the purchase and or sale of life insurance, including but not limited to the specific transactions which are the subject of this lawsuit. And basically what that means is the policies and procedures in issuing a policy. And can you testify to that?
I can testify generally in underwriting. Issuance, no.
Okay.
Except that making that decision, yes.
Okay. But as far as issuing the policy, you say you can't do that. Who is the best person to testify?
I can testify for underwriting. Issuing, I consider a new business or a fulfillment operation, and that's not my expertise.
Okay. So who would be the best person to testify about issuing a policy?
As someone in the fulfillment department.
Okay. And just explain to me how it works. I guess, do the applications go to your department and then they go to fulfillment?
The applications come into new business in Texas, the applications, and I'm assuming that perhaps they worked similar in Oklahoma City. They came into the new business department, they were keyed into the system, they were referred to underwriting to review the application and make a determination as to whether or not the applicant was accepted for insurance. Further investigation needed to be done, or if the application was declined. If the application was accepted, it is then sent to the fulfillment department to print the fulfillment packet.
Have you had an opportunity to look at all the documents that were produced to us in this lawsuit?
I've not seen all of them. If that's one of the documents, I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay, this is a document, it's bait stamp MW Nichols 00272. And I'll represent to you that was given to us in discovery. And it looks like it's a flow chart. Do you recognize that?
No.
Okay.
I recognize some of the names on here, but I didn't work with these people.
Which names do you recognize?
I've heard of John Satori. I've heard of Charmaine Hopkins. Those are the only names that at Chip Plato, those are the only names that I'm familiar with.
Who's Chip Plato?
Jim Plato was the president.
Okay. And then Mr. Story, I think?
Mr. Satori was a vice president.
Okay. And then who was the other person?
Charmaine Hopkins.
What did she do?
It says she was an underwriter.
Okay. And did she ever work with you?
No, she did not.
How do you recognize her name?
Because I've seen her name on documents previously from Oklahoma City.
Okay. Do you know where she is now?
I do not.
Yeah, are you on there?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Now, do you know if Texas has a flow chart like that,
Currently,
or at any time?
we currently have one, yes.
Okay. And is it similar to that flow chart?
Yes, there's a president, there are vice presidents in different departments,
Okay.
yes.
And those different departments that you see underneath, are those similar departments to what you have now in Texas?
We have claims, we have customer care. We have several of these departments, yes.
Now, do you have on your flow chart in Texas, do you have a fulfillment department?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Is there one on that flow chart?
No, there's not.
Now, in your underwriting department, I guess, is most of it computerized?
Yes.
And in your department in underwriting, do you have access to computer databases?
No, we don't have access to databases, computer databases.
Okay. So as far as doing, you said if things warrant further investigation, you get an application and you see things and you want to investigate it further, how would you go about investigating it further?
We may order medical records, we may order a motor vehicle report, an inspection report, a paramedical exam.
Okay. And with a motor vehicle report, if you order the report, what do you have to do? What steps do you take?
You have to obtain the person's driver's license number and request it from the DMV.
Okay. And I guess it's your testimony that your company does not have access to a database or a computer database that allows you to do that?
No, we go through a vendor to request things like that.
And that's what I'm getting at. Who's the vendor?
With the Texas company, we use EMSI as one of our vendors.
Okay. And EMSI, what does that stand for?
I don't think it stands for anything at this point.
Okay. But you can basically go online with them and provide them information, and then they can provide you with a motor vehicle report online. Is that correct?
Well, they obtain it, and then they may fax it to us, or they may email it to us, or they may give us access somewhere to refer to it, or they may send it to our imaging department.
Okay. And why is it important to look at someone's driving record?
For life insurance, it indicates whether or not there may be violations. The more violations that a person has indicates a tendency to a higher risk individual. And there are statistics that indicate that more moving violations or driving violations cause more are related to higher incidents of accidents
Okay.
or accidental death.
Okay. Do you have a copy of the policy?
No.
Have you seen the policy?
I believe there was a copy in the packet that I reviewed or looked at.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as exhibit number 2, and it's a packet of documents that I received from the Oklahoma office. I believe you've already testified that you don't recognize the name on the letter.
Correct.
And if you would flip through that, and can you tell me if the applicant or if the policy of insurance is in that documentation?
I do not see a policy in here.
Okay. But you do see the application,
I
is
do
that
see
right?
the application.
Okay. And tell me about, I guess, the application and its, how it's involved with the actual policy itself. Is it part of the policy?
It becomes part of the policy. It's the applicant's answering of the questions that we have asked in order to make an educated acceptance of risk.
Okay. That application that you see in front of you, is that a standard application for the insurance company?
I mean, it appears to be standard whether or not Tennessee is a generic state or a state-specific application. I'm not sure how the Oklahoma City division marked their application to tell me.
Okay. Now, and just so I'm clear, are you the best person to testify regarding the documents that have been produced by the insurance company?
Regarding the underwriting, yes.
Okay, and that's what I'm getting at. In y'all's request, or in y'all's response to our request for production of documents, at Bates number MW Nichols 0072, it's a cover sheet that says underwriting file. The following is the information from the claim file that was sent to the underwriting department for a review. And the next page is a memo to Pam Smith from Joel Nelson. Do you know who Joel Nelson is?
I do not.
Okay. And it basically says, had we known the client's background history, we would not have issued the policy for the following reasons, subpart 1. Question A on page 1 of application should have been answered yes. Can you tell me what question A on page 1 of the application is?
Have you had 3 or more moving violations or had your license suspended or revoked?
Okay. Subpart 2, it says July 24th, 2002, applicant charged with reckless driving, driving while license suspended / revoked / canceled, and speeding. And then subpart 3, it says February 27th, 2003, driving under the influence of intoxicants / drugs, public intoxication, driving while license suspended / revoked / canceled, reckless driving. And what it appears to me is that when the claim came in, that this file was sent to underwriting. Is that the proper procedure?
Checking the form.
I
And
don't know.
just so I clarify, what, if you want me to rephrase it, Chad, I can. Is there, exactly what's your objection to that question?
Would you read it back, please?
It's a long.
Actually, I remember now. I'm sorry. You can read it back to me. I believe my objection was, your question was, it's my understanding, or it appears to me that, thus and whatever you said after that, is that correct? I don't know if you're asking her if your impression is correct, or if the underlying issue you were asking about is correct.
Okay. Let me go back and I'll take this slowly. In the document production, I don't know if you have that with you or not, but page 72, or Bates stamp 72, it says in bold, underwriting file. And then underneath that it says, the following is the information from the claim file that was sent to the underwriting department for review. And that's my question to you is part of a claim for benefits under a policy of life insurance, is it part of the policy and the procedure of the company for them to take information and send it to the underwriting department after the policy has been in effect for several months?
I can speak to how the Texas division worked at that time.
Okay.
If at claims time it was determined that they needed to investigate further, perhaps because there were areas where it indicated that there was history that was not admitted on the application, the claims department would send it to underwriting and ask, if you had known this at the time of application, what would you have done?
Okay. And I think we already kind of touched on that earlier. I mean, that's part of what your job is as an underwriter, is to decide whether or not you would issue the policy or not.
Correct.
And your testimony was before that if someone had a driving record or whatever, that you would request, additional information. You wouldn't just not issue the policy, right?
I would do further investigation.
Okay. And I'm sorry. Is this what always happens in a claim? In other words, is there always post-claims underwriting?
I don't consider that post-claims underwriting. I consider that information that was that should have been on the application.
Okay. In regards to your life policies, how often do you request a driving record on an applicant?
For the Oklahoma City, I don't know.
Okay, well, let's say for the tech, I think we made it clear, you're not here to testify, I guess, for the policies and procedures that involved this particular claim, is that right?
I don't know the policies and procedures at that time for Oklahoma City Division.
Okay. But you can tell me about the Texas division, and just so we're all not just sitting here wasting our time, I'll ask you about that. What are they? I mean, do you get a copy of their driving record? How often do you do that?
I don't have actual figures, but we do request copies of driving records if we haven't a reason to request it, meaning that they would have answered a question on an application that indicates there were some driving violations, or if during an investigation they told us in a phone conversation, or if we ordered medical records and in the medical records it indicated there were driving convictions, yes, we would have ordered a motor vehicle report.
Okay. How often do you do that?
I don't have any specific figures.
How much does it cost for you to get a driving record?
I don't recall.
Is it a flat fee with this company that you have?
I don't remember.
Okay. looking through the underwriting file, it looks like there are medical records in here as well.
I did see that.
Okay, and I guess why is a dead person's medical records important from an underwriting standpoint?
I believe that since the claim was submitted within the first 2 years, and based on the cause of death, they were allowed to investigate medical history.
Okay, well, explain that to me. So you're able to post-claim underwrite if it's within the first 2 years of the policy, is that right?
If there is a death, such as a gunshot wound, within the first 2 years, yes, I believe they're able to check the medical history.
Okay, and what does someone's medical history have to do with them dying of a gunshot?
Well, it's a gunshot wound could indicate possible risky behavior,
Okay, such as
criminal activity.
okay. Is there, I guess, besides driving history, is there any questions about criminal activity on the application for insurance?
It says, have you been convicted of or awaiting trial for reckless driving, driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, or a felony, or been on probation?
Okay. And I guess did y'all do a check on that and see if that answer was truthful or not?
I believe there is information in the claims file
Okay.
that indicates that.
Okay, that indicates what?
That Mr. Nichols was on probation.
Okay. Probation for,
I believe it was assault. Without looking at it again, I don't remember.
okay. I think I may have already asked you this, but just so I'm clear, in the Texas office, do y'all use pretty much the same form application for insurance?
This is a life application. Our application looks different.
Oh, it does? Okay, how is it different?
Ours is for health.
Okay, but back before 2008, when y'all
It's-
were still issuing life insurance, did it look the same?
No, because we issued health along with life insurance.
Okay. In regards to number, I guess, have you seen the interrogatories?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Okay, the interrogatories that we propounded to the insurance company. Have you seen those?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I guess it's safe to say then you're not the best person to testify about it. Is that fair enough?
Maybe I don't know what interrogatories means.
Okay, it's written questions that we directed to the company and that were answered under oath.
Then no, I have not seen those.
Okay. Do you know who would be the best person to testify about those?
If they refer to underwriting, it would be me.
Okay, it looks like Pamela Smith verified the answers to the interrogatories, and I guess your testimony was you don't know who she is.
No, I don't.
your testimony was, have you seen the actual policy?
I believe I've seen a copy of it.
Okay. And what's your recollection of what the policy provided for?
They,
Object to the form.
Just if you could clarify what's wrong with that question.
It's a little broad and undefined. It provides for a lot of things. That's all.
You're going to need to tell me, so if you want me to rephrase it, I will, but you're going to have to tell me.
Whether you rephrase it or not, it's up to you. I don't want to make speaking objections. I'm making objections to the form as I'm required to. I thought that question was a little broad and undefined.
Okay.
I think I know what you're trying to ask, but
Okay. You have, I guess your business is you review policies of insurance.
I review applications for
Okay. And those applications become policies.
part of the policy.
Okay. And you're also familiar with the policies themselves, right?
Generally, yes.
Okay. And you've reviewed the policy in question in this lawsuit.
I looked at it, yes, briefly.
And you remember how much the amount of the insurance was?
$50,000 face amount, I believe,
Okay. And then it had a double indemnity rider on it
for accidental death.
for accidental death, right, of another $50,000.
Correct.
Okay. And would you agree with me that someone being killed as a result of, a homicide or a robbery attempt, that would be an accidental death?
Yes, that sounds like an accidental death.
Okay. No, they haven't produced our. The applications for insurance, you agree with me that it's important that those answers be correct?
I believe that they should be answered correctly, yes. That's what the underwriting department looks at.
Okay. And do you ever go out with agents, or do you ever help train agents in taking applications of insurance?
I do not train agents.
Okay. But are you familiar with what they're supposed to do or what their job requirements are?
I'm not familiar with their job requirements.
Okay. Well, do you know what they're supposed to do as part of their job?
They're supposed to inform the customer of the type of insurance that they are purchasing or wish to purchase, and help them fill out the application, or leave the application and then make sure that the information is filled out and signed.
Okay. And would you agree with me, it's important that the agent go over the policy with the person who's supposed to be insured?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't know if you are aware, but that's, I guess, what we have here. The situation was that the agent took the information from the owner of the policy as opposed to the insured. Were you aware of that?
I'm going to object to the form of you providing proof or testimony as opposed to asking her what she knows. That's an improper procedure for a deposition. You're to ask her what she knows as opposed to you putting on the record what you believe the facts to be.
Okay. First of all, let me ask you, do you know the circumstances surrounding how this application was taken?
I read that in the information, yes.
Okay, you read what? You said that?
That the mother and the sister, I guess, were there initially to help the agent complete the application.
Okay. And that the insured, Jermaine Nichols, was not there when the application was, I guess, filled out with the agent?
The application was left for Mr. Nichols to review and sign, and Mr. Nichols did sign the application, and it does state that he's reviewed it.
Okay. And you're very artful with the way that you just termed that. You didn't say that he reviewed it and signed it.
I wasn't there when he signed it.
Okay. Do you also remember from reading through the paperwork that Mr. Nichols was illiterate, he could not read?
I did not see that.
Okay. Did you also see in the paperwork where there were notes in the file, I guess either from underwriting or from claims, that said that since the insured was not present when the agent filled out the application, then the policy would be null and void anyway?
object to the form.
I believe that was only part of what the paper said.
Let's go back though. You remember seeing that though?
That was part of the paper.
Okay. And I guess, then what was the other part?
The rest of it, I believe, said that Mr. Nichols had signed the application, so it appeared to be fine, something to that effect.
Okay. Well, tell me about that. What's the importance from an insurance company, I guess, standpoint, that the agent be there with the proposed insured and help them fill out the application?
I don't know how the agents are trained. I do know that Mr. Nichols signed the application.
Okay. And that's what I'm getting at, though. I didn't ask you that. What's the importance of having the agent go over the policy with the proposed insured,
Object to the form.
if you know?
I don't know, sir.
Okay. Who would be the best person to ask that question to at the company?
I'm not sure who would be the best person other than me. I mean, there's no one in the company anymore.
Okay. Now, I think you testified that Midwest still exists.
Midwest does exist. We do not sell life insurance.
Okay. But you're saying the company doesn't exist anymore?
I'm saying that we don't sell life insurance. Oklahoma City was sold, the division, and I don't know what happened to that.
At the time this policy was issued, though, you were an underwriter for life policies, then, right?
Health and life, yes, in Texas.
Okay. Do you know if Pam Smith even works there anymore?
Pam Smith, I believe, was in the Oklahoma City office, and that office doesn't exist.
Okay. Do you know how the agents were compensated?
I do not.
Who would know the answer to that?
For the Oklahoma City division, I'm not sure.
What? Are all the records for the Oklahoma office still maintained in the Texas office?
I do not know.
Who would know the answer to that question?
I'm assuming that someone, perhaps higher up, maybe the legal department or the compliance department, I don't know.
And I know we went over, you testified that number 7, all non-privileged information regarding the relationship between you and Charles Swenson. Charles Swenson is the agent that, I guess, helped issue this policy.
Object to the form. There's no evidence that Mr. Swenson issued the policy. The policy was issued by Midwest.
Okay. Let me clarify that Mr. Swenson was the agent that helped prepare the application that was submitted to your office.
Object to the form. There's no evidence that he helped prepare it. He took the application and submitted it.
He's the person who took the application and submitted it to your office.
Yes.
And I guess that area of inquiry is the relationship between you and Charles Swenson. Who would be the best person that could testify regarding how he was paid?
Maybe the licensing department?
Yeah, does that department still exist?
There's a licensing department in Texas.
You think they'd be able to answer that
They
question?
may have information.
And just so I'm clear on this, is it your testimony that the Oklahoma office was like a branch office that just closed? Or?
When we stopped selling life insurance, it is my understanding that we sold the Oklahoma City office.
The name of the company is Midwest National Life Insurance Company of Tennessee. We've been talking about Oklahoma and Texas for the last hour. What does Tennessee have to do with any of this?
I know there's a reason for that name. I don't recall what the reason is.
Now, this policy covered an insured that lived in the state of Tennessee. Is that right?
That's correct.
And I guess, did Midwest National Life Insurance Company of Tennessee only issue life insurance policies in the state of Tennessee?
No.
Area of inquiry number 2, this application for life insurance and whether the procedure was properly followed. Do you know if the procedure was properly followed in the issuance of this policy?
As far as the underwriting, based on what I've seen, it appears that it was.
Okay. And what is it that you've looked at that tells you that the policy or the procedure was adhered to?
The application, as well as somewhere in the documents looks like underwriting notes from the review of the application.
Okay. And this is the review of the application before the claim was made? Before
It
the
was,
policy
it was the
issued?
review of the application.
Okay. And that's my question, is it a review of the application before the policy was issued or after the claim was made?
No, it was before the policy was issued. When it comes in the door, the underwriting department looks at it.
Okay. And what kind of notes, what do you remember seeing that they did or didn't do that was part of the policy and procedure?
I saw that they ran an MIB report.
What's an MIB?
Medical Information Bureau.
And what is that supposed to do?
That is a clearinghouse of member life companies that if Mr. Nichols had applied with a member life insurance company previously and had had any history, either good or bad, they do document that type of history, and it is available for other member life insurance companies to review. That is just information. The insurance company does not take any of that information to accept or decline an individual. They just review it and they have to do their own investigation. I also saw that they requested information from the IAI, and I don't have all of the terms of that, but it's similar to MIB in that it indicates if there was any previous application history by Mr. Nichols. Those reports both came back with no information. Looks like they noted that the application indicated that he was a non-smoker, and they looked at the answers on the application, and he was issued on a standard basis.
Okay. And the 2 reports that you had run, that's just for health information?
No, the MIB runs health. It also indicates if there may be driving violations, criminal activity. There's lab work that was done at some time that may be good, bad, blood pressure readings, things such as that.
And so I guess it's your testimony that part of the policy and the procedure is that you check for driving infractions or problems with people's driving record.
No, we check the Medical Information Bureau. That is one of the areas that may come up on an MIB report. If the insured or the applicant had ever applied with a member of MIB life insurance company.
Okay. Do y'all always run an MIB?
I am not certain if Oklahoma City always ran an MIB. I can tell you for Texas that we did run MIBs at that time on our applicants,
And that's all applicants?
all adult applicants.
Okay. And then the other, I guess, what was it,
IAI.
Okay. And you don't know what that stands for?
It's something like application activity, insurance application activity, something such as that.
Okay. And do you always run an IAI on people?
I'm not familiar with that company. I was not familiar until I investigated it, so I don't know what the policies and procedures were.
So wait, you're saying now you don't know what the policies and procedures are?
For Oklahoma City.
Okay. Is there any reason why they would be any different? from the Texas company?
Well, we didn't have a contract with IAI, but our life insurance policies were very small, term life.
So your testimony is that Oklahoma City had access to databases that the Texas office did not have access to at the time this application was processed?
At the time the application was processed, I know that our Texas office didn't use IAI, but we are mainly in the health business, and we were mainly in the health business.
Okay. And then I think you also said that they noted that the application says that there was a non-smoker policy was issued.
I believe there's a, yeah, there's a tobacco question on here, and he answered that no, so non-smoking was noted on the underwriting notes.
Okay. And so we're clear on this, smoker versus non-smoker. If someone smokes, then they have a certain rate that they're charged for life insurance. And then if someone doesn't smoke, then they're charged a smaller premium. Is that right?
As far as health insurance, that is correct, and life insurance would follow also.
Okay. And so I'm clear, whether someone smokes or not is not a reason to not issue them life insurance. Is that right?
No, it is a factor in the underwriting. It's just one additional note that is made.
Okay. And in your review of all this documentation, everything, is it your understanding that this policy was rescinded because of that particular question, the smoking question?
No.
Okay. So we're clear, your understanding is that the driving record question or the criminal record question was not answered correctly. Is that right?
It appears to me that it was rescinded from what I read because A and or B was not answered correctly.
Okay. Tell me about B. What is B?
Have you ever been convicted of or awaiting trial for reckless driving, driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, or a felony, or been on probation?
Okay. And how's that different from A?
The A says, have you had 3 or more moving violations or had your license suspended or revoked?
Okay. And so I'm clear on this. The actual policy I guess the first page of the policy in this particular case is this what's been marked or bait stamped MW Nichols 0037.
Okay, I can't see that far.
Okay, here.
Okay.
Is that right? Is that normally the first page? I guess the one that has the signatures.
I don't know what page it is, but it appears to be a page of the policy.
Well, down at the bottom it says page 1.
Okay, then that appears to be page 1.
Okay. And on this, I know we just established that, I guess, MW Nichols 0037 is page 1 of the policy. When you flip the page on the documents we received, the next one is bait stamped MW Nichols 0038. But it says page 3 at the bottom. Can you explain where page 2 is?
I don't see a page 2. However, I do know that in many of our policies, there's a blank page that separates certain pages.
Okay. But we've got a page 3, page 4, and then it looks like there's a page 5 missing.
Again, it may be a blank page that's inserted in there.
Okay, but would it have the page actually written on the document?
I don't remember.
And you see what I'm saying? I mean,
Right.
if it was, normally, I mean, if it was a blank page, it would be like this,
Right.
page 6 and then page 7. You wouldn't have so I mean, my question to you is, do you know whether or not this is a complete copy of the policy or not?
I don't know. I do know that in many of our policies, we do insert blank pages at certain points in the policy.
Okay. Counsel, I just would ask if you would produce to her a full and complete copy of the policy so I can ask her questions about it.
You mean right now?
Now is as good a time as any.
I have the claims file. That's all I brought with me today. And keep asking your questions.
Okay. So so what you're telling me is you're not going to give me a copy of the policy so I can ask the lady questions about it?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's not what I'm saying at all.
You're saying you don't have it?
I'm saying that what I have in front of me is the claims file we've produced to you in response to discovery. What we've produced to you in response to discovery. That's all I have to. I'm happy to investigate that issue, and if we need to supplement our discovery, we'll do it.
Let me follow up with you on this. Do you know whether or not that's a full and complete copy of the policy or not?
I don't know.
Okay, do you know who would know?
I'm not sure who would know.
If you would have known as an underwriter that Mr. Nichols was not present when the application was taken, would you have issued the policy?
Mr. Nichols signed the application, so I would have issued the policy based on him reviewing the application and signing that all the information was true and correct.
Let me clarify that, though.
I think she answered your question.
If you would have known that, even if he did sign it, but if you would have known that he wasn't present when the information was given, that it was given by someone else, would you still have issued the policy?
If
She
Mr. Nichols
answered.
signed the application that everything was true and correct, yes, I would have.
Okay. If you would have known that Mr. Nichols was illiterate and could not read, would you still have issued the policy?
How do I know that someone didn't read the questions to him?
And that's what I'm getting at, okay? But if you would have known, along with this application for insurance, that this person does not know how to read and did not have someone go over these questions with them directly and get answers to the questions, would you still have issued the policy?
I probably would not have. However, Mr. Nichols signed the application that the information was true and correct.
No, I understand that. let's go follow back up on that last question. If you would have known that he didn't know how to read and that the agent was not there with him, going over the questions with him and getting the answers directly from him, I believe you testified you wouldn't have issued the policy. Would you have, I guess, requested that the application be taken again?
I object to the form of your question because I don't think that that was her testimony. And so by rephrasing what her prior testimony was into a different question and assessing it, attributing it to her as an improper question.
Okay.
I join that objection.
Once again, am I wrong, or was I hearing things? Did you say that you would not have issued the policy if you would have known all of those factors? Is that right?
If Mr. Nichols wasn't present and nobody read the policy to him or read the application to him, and he didn't sign the application that everything was true and correct, I would have incompleted the application.
Okay. Everything, I followed you right up until the very end, and you said if he would have not signed that he read and understood. We know in this case that he signed this application for insurance. My question is, if he couldn't read and he didn't have the questions read to him, didn't have an agent go over the questions with him, whether or not you would have issued this policy.
Now, that's different than your prior question, because this time you asked, is it the agent that has to go over it? Previously, you asked if anyone went over it. So I think you need to clarify whether you're asking if, as long as he read it or he signs it, that he is responsible for it is different than whether she is requiring specifically that an agent affirm that the agent has read it and witnessed the signature.
Let's just assume anybody read it to him, whether it was the agent or not.
If Mr. Nichols wasn't present at the time of application and no one read the application to him, he shouldn't have signed it.
That's not really an answer to my question. My question to you is, as an underwriter for this company, you receive an application in your hands, and it's been signed by someone, and then you also receive this information as an underwriter, that this individual does not know how to read and was not present when the answers to the questions were given, that someone else provided the answers to the questions. From an underwriting standpoint, would you, at that point, have issued the policy or not issued the policy?
I wouldn't have issued the policy. I probably would have started with a call to Mr. Nichols to see if that was correct, depending on who gave me the information. And then I would have incompleted the application and had him refill it out again.
And that's where I was 20 minutes ago, was whether or not you'd have him undergo the application process again, have an agent go out and meet with him and go back over this all over again.
Well, I would have incompleted the application. Whether or not the agent went back out, that's his prerogative, or Mr. Nichols requested that he come back out, that's his prerogative.
But that would have been the only way this company would have issued insurance with those circumstances.
Had we known. But Mr. Nichols signed the application, so we did not know that.
In Texas, is there a requirement that the agent go over the questions with the proposed insurer?
Object to the form, it's not relevant to this case.
Join.
Relevance and everything's observed. I mean, this is a discovery deposition, so answer it if you can.
Well, my objection is to the form of the question.
I don't know how the agents are trained.
And so we're clear, because you said you could testify regarding the relationship between Swenson and the company. Is he an agent of the company?
Based on his signature and his agent number, that is my understanding.
So he's a representative of your company?
He is an agent for the company.
Okay. And part of his job is to fill out applications and make sure they're filled out right.
Object to the form. I think no one has testified that he fills out the application. He takes the application. He does not fill it out. He does not have the information unless it's given to him by the applicant or the insured. He does not sit in his office and fill out applications on people that he does not know anything about.
Just object and let's
Just
move
object.
on. Let's
Well,
move on.